it's very interesting. I'd like to interview you. So please do not just blindly walk into something you're not prepared or qualified or authorized to do. If your organization has people who are designated to speak on behalf of the agency, they're the only ones who can speak on behalf of the agency. Because typically in such settings, you don't just wake up and speak on behalf of the agency. There is a training process. You are trained on how to engage with the media. So if you've not been trained, if you've not been designated as someone who speaks on behalf of the agency, then you're not authorized to speak on behalf of the agency. So that's something you want to check. So the bottom line is, if somebody engages you and say, hey, I like the paper you wrote, can we have a media interview, or can you reply to these questions? It doesn't matter whether they just said reply via email, or they said we want to have a phone call, or we want to have you on video. It doesn't matter what the channel is. The only thing you should do is to say, okay, we'll get back to you. I'm going to contact the media person, and the media person will take it from there and do everything that is needed. But of course, this is very different if your organization doesn't have such arrangements. But many large organizations definitely have media people who are authorized to speak on their behalf. And then you need to overcome camera shyness. Many people are camera shy. They just start acting differently when they're in front of a camera. I think that's a very instinctive human reaction when we're being recorded, which we alter our behavior, especially if you've not been media trained. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of doing that to just become very comfortable in front of a video or in front of camera light, especially when you're in the studio and you have bright lights on you. That can throw you off if you're not used to that. So it takes practice. And one way you can take practice of that is to engage in video abstract. Some journals have an arrangement where you can choose to record your video, your abstract as a video abstract. I'm going to show you some examples. So if a journal has that arrangement, take advantage of it and record it. And that way you can also practice is to do recordings of your work for TikTok. TikTok has small short videos that you can just record your work and share. So that way you get used to speaking in front of a camera and having your work recorded and speaking, in terms of scientific content. Now, why do we need research translation? So in other words, why do we need to convey our work, scientific work, in simpler forms other than the traditional manuscript? Well, we need to translate science for non-scientists, right? So when you publish a manuscript, you're speaking to fellow scientists. Not everybody understands that technical language. So when you say p-value is less than 0.05, not everybody understands what that means. When you talk about some fancy methodology or your regression analysis, of course, that's like Latin to many people. So we need to translate science for non-scientists. And the non-scientists in question here could include policymakers and the general public and media and many other people who are not scientists. It could even be scientists in other fields. So, you could be, let's say, an epidemiologist, and you're trying to communicate with maybe a social scientist who maybe uses completely different terminology. So it's important to translate our science for others. It is also very important to ensure that our work has real-world impact. It's a very sad scenario where our work dies in the article, in the journal. For our work to leave the pages of that journal and to go into the real world, well, we have to translate it, because it takes a whole community to create impact. And that community cannot create that impact if they don't understand what we're saying. So that's another reason why research translation is very important. Also, it engages advocates and policymakers and media, like I said earlier, and the general public to understand what we're saying. Now, to note, research translation is not the same thing as translational research. Translational research is just an entire body of different type of research entirely. So translational research essentially is the kind of research we do to bridge basic research with population level research. So when we do, for example, basic science is just about how do we understand how the world works? How, for example, does this mechanism work in the cell or in this tissue, right? Now, the whole point of basic knowledge is to just understand the world, to gain knowledge for knowledge's sake. That's what we do, basic science. Well, but if the end goal of research is to have an impact in the real world, then that means that at some point we need to move beyond basic research. We need to now conduct translational research that takes the basic research and finds application for it. That's how we develop medicines. That's how we develop policies, because we take what we know from basic knowledge and do other kinds of studies, like we do, clinical trials, or we do, cohort studies to look at specific things in the real world. Now that's all of that is what we call translational research, right? That is not the same thing as research translation, because even for translational research, we now need to translate that research so that non-scientists can understand. So research translation has to do with taking the results from our study and translating them so that non-scientists can understand. Think of it just like the word translation. When you translate text, let's say from French to English, you are literally just making sure that other people who do not speak that language can understand. And so that's quite different from translational research. So what are some of the communication materials that we use often that you need to be aware of? Well, you need to be aware of things like infographics and policy briefs and press releases, and then media interviews, posters, and slides. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you some examples of each of those items here. I will look at some of the overall principles of do's and don'ts when you are constructing them. So the idea is that hopefully you take that very dense scientific manuscript you just published, and you're going to create all of these things so that you disseminate knowledge, you translate research, science for non-scientists, infographics so that it's visual and all of that. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to show you some examples of those, and then we'll see some of the overall principles of best practices for doing those. So let's start from let me just pick up a paper, for example. So here I have this paper. Let me come back to this. An MMWR here. So this is a report from the CDC. Let me get the PDF. It's just easier to read. Oops. All right. So this paper we have here. It's a report from CDC's morbidity and mortality report. Looks at combustible and smokeless tobacco use among high school athletes during the period 2001, 2013. This was many years ago. Let me see. Let me see the date. Well, it doesn't matter. But this is like about a decade ago. All right. So this is the MMWR in of itself is already a very simplified channel for scientific communication, but this is still dense information. You see here, it is written in standard scientific language. You have methodology, you have footnotes, right? These are not things that are user-friendly or friendly to a non-scientific audience. You have tables with, percentages and confidence intervals and footnotes, and everything is so standard and so dense to a non-scientific audience, right? So the question is, if we wanted to communicate this to other non-scientists, what are some of the options that are available to us? So I'm going to go through the list of items we discussed. So let's start with the first one, which was infographics. How do we create infographics in a way that allows us to make that communication or that translation very easy? So let's look at an example of an infographic based on that. So this is the infographic that we had on that article we talked about, right? As you can see, the very first thing when you see in an infographic is that there are pictures. An infographic without pictures is not an infographic. That's why it's called graphic, right? The graphic that means pictures. So first of all, you see that the title is not necessarily the same thing we had. Let me see, go back to the article. So this is the article we had, combustible and smokeless tobacco use among high school athletes, United States, 2001, 2013. The article conforms to the principles we established from the last class, that it must have elements of person, place, and time. It's very scientifically framed, and everything is fine. And you have a list of co-authors here. Now, infographic, you don't have those elements. The goal is not to provide information in a precise scientific manner. So the information you have here, your title here, does not or should not even align with what you have in an infographic. So let's go back to this. So here we've just made it very dramatic, right? A dangerous trend: smokeless tobacco use among high school athletes. Right? We've put a lot of pictures here. Here we see somebody with baseball, playing the baseball. Why baseball? Because that's a sport that most commonly uses smokeless tobacco use, well, at least within the United States, right? And so the picture is supposed to have a very strong reaction from the participants who see it. And then we see somebody playing soccer here too. And then we provide, this is the whole summary of the manuscript. It's summarized in just 4 lines, right? You see that we've made very discrete use of bold text to just highlight the key things we want. There are no confidence intervals provided, nothing of that nature. Everything is just simplified. And then we have some of the take-home messages. Smokeless tobacco use can lead to nicotine addiction, can cause cancer of the mouth, can cause disease of the mouth, can increase the risk for death. Now, these things did not come from our study. These are just established findings from the literature. But the goal of an infographic is not just to communicate the findings, it's to have a take-home message that allows the user to link what your study found to the larger body of knowledge, right? So it's not just a summary of your paper. It's meant to, of course, highlight the main summary, but also allow the user to link that summary with a bigger take-home message, right? So our circle here, our single overriding health communication objective, is that smokeless tobacco use is not without risk. Our study did not assess, risk. It just assessed use. And so we've supplemented that information with this 4, images that indicate, okay, this is what smokeless tobacco use can cause. It can lead to addiction or cancer or other disease of the mouth and can lead to death, So this is an example of how you create an infographic, right? And you want to make sure that it's, 1 page is ideal, so you want to try as much as you can to keep your infographic to 1 single page. Anything other than that becomes like, okay, this is now becoming like a manuscript, right? So 1 page, that is what will make an ideal infographic because it is meant for the lay user who has no time to read. The idea is that somebody picks up this and they can read it in 10 seconds or less, right? And get the take-home message immediately. So once the reader goes through this, the idea is, okay, wow, smokeless tobacco is bad for you. It can even kill you. That's what we want to achieve. And so if we achieve that, then mission is accomplished. Here are some other infographics that based on some other articles. So you can see here the same mantra applies. The title is not scientifically framed at all. It's based in a way, it's written in a way that is kind of dramatic and allows the user to just conclude what we're trying to pass just from the title alone. Cigarette smoking overall among adults in the US is down. See, we've highlighted some keywords here: smoking, adults, and down. So you just look at those 3 words, you have an idea of what we're trying to say. And we have a picture of cigarettes. You can't call it an infographic if it doesn't have pictures, right? So, and then there are many places you can get pictures to use for your infographic. You can go to, for example, Pixabay. They have images that you can use for free of charge. You can search for anything you want. If you're looking for icons, you can also use, you can go to flat icons. Those also have, depending on whatever you're trying to use, but those are easy ways you can try and create, infographics. But again, the bottom line is that if it doesn't have images, then it's not infographic, right? And infographics must have images. Oops, my computer is hanging. Sorry, just a minute. All right. Can you still confirm you can hear me?
Yes, bro. Can you hear you?
Right, super. All right, so that's how infographics look like, So the bottom line is I keep it to 1 page, make sure it has colors, it's colorful and it has images. The images should please be relevant to what you're saying. It can't just be things that are tangential. That won't work. And then policy briefs and press releases. Those are targeted towards different audiences. As the name implies, the press release is meant for the press. It takes that information from that paper and summarizes it in a way that is press friendly. So let's look at a press release. So again, this is the article here. Let's look at what a press release might look like. So this is the same article we have here, and this is the press release for that same article. Here you see the title is a bit different. High school athletes using smokeless tobacco more than non-athletes. Cigarette use going down, while smokeless use going up. This is not scientific language. This is just find ways to reduce whatever you're saying to the simplest form that you can. And this is where ChatGPT can, now in the era of ChatGPT, you can simply just give it a whole text and say, please, distill or simplify this sentence to one line or this paragraph to one line that a 12-year-old can understand, right? In a way that is memorable. This everyone can remember this. Cigarette going down, smokeless going up. That is very memorable, right? So it can't be something that is complicated. You can't be putting p-values and odds ratios. No, it has to be very simple. And then this is how you write a, there are basic elements in the press release that you must have. Number one, it has a key summary of the major findings. It begins with, where this report came from. Then you have the summary. And then you must have quotes from key individuals who are that institution. And, whether or not you interview them or not, that doesn't, most times you don't even interview them, but a press release must have quotations from somebody in leadership. So for example, this line here says, we can do more to protect America's youth from a lifetime of addiction, said CDC Director Tom Frieden. If you're reading this article, you will think that the press guy actually went and interviewed Tom Frieden. That in most cases, that's not what happens. But again, it is not a press release if you don't have those kinds of statements that seem like interviews, right? So you must have them. Otherwise, it's not a press release. So again, press release, you must try and have like 2 or 3 of those kinds of statements. One is just too small. So typically we stick to between 2 and 3 quotes. You can use the same individual. You can use different individuals for the different quotes. So here, for example, we use CDC Director Tom Frieden. We'll put their degrees and their roles in the institution. And then down here, we provide another quotation. Tobacco use among youth athletes is of particular concern because most adult tobacco users first try tobacco before age 18, said Brian King, PhD, Deputy Director for Research Translation in the CDC Office on Smoke and Health. Then here, we have a third quote. Creating 100% tobacco-free environments is one of the best ways we can set up our kids for a healthy future, said U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, right? So again, when you write a press release, you want to make sure that you include about 2 to 3 quotes. They can be from the same individual, but better yet, they should come from different people who are influential. And the idea is to lend weight to the article, right? So that people reading it can say, wow, these very powerful people have said that this is a bad thing, or it's a good thing, as the case might be. So this must be very good, or this might be very bad, right? So that's how you structure a press release. Now, you should also know that nothing in this world happens by accident. When you see an article being featured in a newspaper or whatever, it's not that the paper was so fantastic that it just miraculously appeared there. No, everything happens by design. So most organizations have an entire machinery that engages with the media, so that once an article is published, the press office or whatever media office or whatever they're called will engage with the media, and you could have a town hall where the results are presented, and then they just take it off and run away with it and publish it. That's one of the things you can do. So you want to check with your organization if they have a press office and where they engage media. Now, what if they don't engage media and you still want to issue a press release? Well, then your option is to go to organizations that do press releases for a fee. So for example, Presswire. I'm not endorsing Presswire. I'm just giving an example of an organization like that. There are hundreds of them. So for a fee, whatever the fee might be, you can pay in bulk. And then let's say you can pay $100 to have 10 or 11 press releases over a 12-month period. So you write out your press release and they just disseminate it. The benefit is that once they publish it, different articles or different newspapers get to pick it up so that your press release gets featured, right? This is particularly very useful for people who for example, need to do, for example, for certain immigration benefits, you need to demonstrate that your work is of importance. So important that different media outlets are picking up your work. Well, like I said, nothing happens by chance. So one cheap way to do this is to engage your work. Again, this might be very important for those of you who are heads of institutes, and you want to make sure that the work from your institute it's released and gets picked up by media. You can definitely release press releases, and that's one way to do that. We also release, like at Chisquares, we also release press releases. If, for example, we've released a feature and we want the world to know, we just say, oh, here's the press release that we've issued, right? We've launched this, whatever, and then people can get to read about it and all of that. So this is definitely one way to be able to control the narrative for what you're doing, so that you're not just praying and hoping that things happen. You can actually make them happen. So that's how you write press releases. Now let's look at policy briefs. Policy briefs are more for policymakers, as the name implies. Of the three we've discussed so far, policy briefs are more technical. They contain more methodology or more results. Let's look at an example of a policy brief to see what that might look like. So this is the policy brief, for example, issued by the Africa Center for Tobacco Industry Monitoring at the University of Pretoria in South Africa. So you can use a colorful outlet. It doesn't really matter. Some organizations have a standard template in which the policy briefs are always written. Others do not, but you should always check with your institution to see what obtains. So you have a title there. You have the logo of the organization is always prominently displayed so that the readers can know where it's coming from. A good way to structure your policy brief is to make sure that you frame it in terms of the background, the issues, the solution. So what's the background? What's the problem? What's the solution? Right? The whole point of a policy brief is to, as the name implies, encourage policy making. So for policy making, then we need to know that it's a problem. And we won't know until you tell us, right? So what is the problem? And what is the solution that you're preferring? So you've done your research. So what are the policy recommendations that emanate from this study of yours? So you can't be doing a policy brief where you don't have policy recommendations. Like that complete, even from the name, right? That undermines the whole point of doing a policy brief. So this is one good way to structure it. Provide a background for the issue, provide the issues themselves, provide your recommendations, your policy recommendations based on your data, and then any other information you want can also be provided, and then references. So policy briefs are more, like I said, they are more technical than the rest that we discussed. The other ones don't require references. You don't need references when you're providing an infographic or when you're writing a press release. Those are not scientific media or communication. The press release, however, needs more substance, because remember that you are recommending policy that could impact the lives of many people. Why should we just take your recommendation and go and do it? There has to be substance to it. We need to know that this is indeed based on credible evidence and that everything is robust. So that's why you have references there. And so make sure you put it in bullets. Don't make it very dense and make it hard for people to read. So you have a background and provide bullets. Typically, you don't want to have more than 3 to 4 bullets on any given issue. And if anything more than that, becomes very complicated to read. So keep it between 3 to 5 bullets at most, and make sure that you can use contrasting colors. So people, it's easy on the eye. People can know where one section starts and where the other one begins. And if you have figure, you want to include the figure. It's always a good idea to include one figure in a policy brief so that it just visualizes the data easily. So don't turn it into, a maze of figures. One figure, two at most is enough, right? And those should be the figures that are most related to the recommendations you're making. So here, for example, our recommendations involve, laws or recommendations that we should, implement certain laws. And we've shown here that, okay, the majority of the population supports such laws, right? So that is very related to that. So this is how a policy brief is written. Like I said, it's a bit more substantive than the other ones we discussed, but you can have a very fixed format for it. Background, the issues, the recommendations, and any other issue you want to discuss. All right, now let's look at media interviews. We'll talk about media interviews at the beginning and the principles. Those ones could go in any direction, but you want to make sure you have your SOCO. Again, SOCO is your single overriding health communication objective. If you have been media trained, they're going to drill SOCO into you so hard. You have to know your SOCO. Like for everything you're talking about, you must stick to the SOCO. It doesn't matter what question the news person, the media person asks you, everything must come back to the SOCO, right? Are you surprised? Are you shocked that this is the message, right? So it's very important to make sure that you stick with that. You don't go on a tangent. Otherwise, the next thing you're going to see, oh, CDC says this, you don't want that to happen. So let's look at posters and slides and the principle for creating those. So I'm going to stick to the same research question that we had. And I'm just going to walk through the slides quickly and look at some of the principles we want to keep in mind when we're creating slides for communication with external audiences, especially audiences that are not scientists. So first things first, you want to make sure that you use your organization's templates. If they have a template. So this is, for example, CDC's template, quite ugly and boring, but it is a template. That's the official approved template, right? So you use that as the case might be. The title is clearly there, your name and your affiliations or your credentials or your position clearly spelled out. Good idea to always provide an overview for the talk you're about to give so that your viewers or the audience can follow along as you present the material. Also good practice to section one part of a talk from the other. So here we have all the segments. So it's also a good idea so that the viewers can know when one section has ended and the next one has begun. So here we have a slide just titled background, and we're going to have a similar slide for all the other sections as well. Always learn to tell a story, right? So storytelling means that you don't just jump into the meat of your talk. Humans love stories. You have a multi-billion-dollar industry built in, around stories. Like the whole movie industry is based on our love for stories. So before you jump into your talk, you want to make sure that you provide some context. Like, what are some of the historical perspectives, right? So here I'm talking about smokeless tobacco use, and you can see all of this old team with their jerseys with smokeless tobacco icons on it, showing how far this has been an issue. These are pictures from 1981. I'm trying to show that this is an issue. Establish if you can, a framework along which you are giving your talk. It's always helpful when you provide a theoretical framework on which your talk is based. So if possible, provide that. Here I'm also, this is part of providing some context, historical context for why that is an issue in the case of your topic. Again, establishing why it's an issue from the case of just marketing, and in your case, that could be very different, right? It could be a clinical issue, or it could be a public health issue, it could be an environmental issue. Whatever the case is, you want to make sure that you establish clearly the justification for why that's important. And so, and then here I'm also providing the some historical context for the data existing. Your study doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? Your study exists in the context of other studies. So where you can, you want to provide a snapshot of the data that exists before you. So here, for example, this is a study that existed before the study we conducted, but this also allows us to frame why there's a gap in the literature. So here, for example, this was done among professional athletes, right? And no study to date has examined that issue among, non-professional athletes or, in this case, high school students, right? So always try and include a background or a history, tell a story. Where are we coming from? And where are we now before we did the study, right? And so the objective statement should be very clear, right? And if possible, on a slide of its own, so that you clearly articulate the objective. This is the whole point of why you're doing the study. So surely the objective deserves a slide of its own where you can tell the audience what the objective of the study was. Note how there's a lot of clean white space. You don't want to clutter a lot of things on the slide that make it very, very unreadable. So here the methodology. This presentation was to a scientific audience, so you want to make sure that you provide the key elements of person, place, and time. So here I'm summarizing the study in terms of the study population and the years that were analyzed. So you want to make sure you provide the person, place, and time. So in other words, where did the data come from and what years were used and what was the sample size. It's always a good thing to report the response rates for the study. Again, take note how it's a lot of data that's presented in a very clean way, right? And one way to do that is always make sure you remove the lines. See, this is a table with lines, but I have removed those lines from my presentation. So if you see, this is a table. I could have made this table very hard to read by just adding the lines. So see how if this would change if I were to add the lines. Let's see, where's the table now? Table design. So please try to avoid very colorful tables, right? They make the table unnecessarily look cluttered, right? Wherever you can, just keep the table clean, put a header, and that makes it much cleaner to read. And it just gives a more pleasing aesthetic look as well. Again, methodology is very important where you have your key definitions. Try to keep it in bullets. You want to keep it as short and concise as possible, but at the same time, you want to make sure that all the key definitions are there. In this case, we're interested in how are we defining an athlete, how are we defining smokeless tobacco use, how are we defining combustible tobacco use. Those are key definitions. Everything is not necessary, right? So again, this goes back to PICO, the population, intervention, control, outcome, and time. We've defined them clearly here so that it's easy to follow. The analysis, one slide, you want to have maybe between 3 to 5 bullets so that summarizes everything from the descriptive analysis to, or if you did any multivariable analysis, that should be provided as well. Then you have the results, again, well segmented. This is just to show that it's been published. So if your work has been published already, it's always a good idea to show, it's just a snapshot of the first page. That builds confidence that, okay, these results that you're presenting at least have passed through the rigor of peer review. So that's always a good practice to do. And then the main results, again, presenting them as in the table and as a figure, and as a figure again. And then the limitations, of course, since again, this is a scientific audience, so the presentation has to be more nuanced. And again, this was an 1 hour presentation done to a large scientific body that specifically requested this. So in general, you want to make sure that you plan for each slide, budget 30 seconds for each slide. So that means that if your presentation is going to be, if you're going to have a 20-minute presentation, you should have no more than 20 slides, right? So aim to spend 30 seconds. You don't want to spend two minutes on one slide. It becomes extremely boring to your audience because now they just have to sit down and stare at this same screen forever. So plan to have your slides where you spend 30 seconds per slide. And so allow room for mishaps at the beginning. So the equipment may not start very well, or you may have glitches at the beginning. So don't budget exactly up to the time. You want to allow for a buffer. So again, if your presentation is a 10-minute presentation, you want to have, ideally, maximum number of slides you can have is 20, right? Because 30 seconds per slide, those are 20 slides. But you don't want to create up 20 slides. You want to create like 15. In general, subtract 5, and that will give you the maximum number of slides you can have. So the presentation is dynamic and it's engaging. Implications, what could be done, then the contact information. It's always a good idea to, at the end of the day, to provide your information at the end, your email, your phone number, especially if you are speaking on behalf of an agency, so that they can contact you. Especially if you work for the government, you can't say, oh, I don't want people to contact me. Well, you are public facing, and so you must provide that. Of course, this may not apply in other contexts, but if it does, you should do so. Now, you should always plan to have supplemental slides for Q&A. So sometimes you have a lot of slides and you just want to pack them and just rush through the whole presentation. No, that's always a bad idea. Less is more. Just focus on the key stories. And then all of the slides you have, just put them in supplemental slides. In case somebody asks a question, right? Then you can bring them. So all of these slides here, right? These are supplemental slides that I may never use, but if somebody asks a question that relates to, oh, how is the tobacco industry marketing this particular product? Or how have they historically marketed it, right? I can bring up a slide that is relevant. So, for example, I'm saying, oh, here, there's sexual themes very infused into marketing of this product. Or here, there are, whatever, even in sports, for example, this has been featured heavily. All of these things, I don't need to tell them. It's not part of a story, but I can keep them in the supplemental slides and bring them up later on. So this is how you create slides, making sure that you keep it short and sweet and do not exceed the timelines. All right, so now let's look at the last part, which is the posters, which was the last section of the, let's pull it up. Let me see. I think I have a, all right, so posters. So here is a sample poster. Let's look at some of the elements here. So a poster is a form of communication, simplified also, because, obviously you're not presenting the whole information. You are trying to condense the information into a smaller, chunk. So you have the title. So first of all, the best platform to create posters is Excel. So don't go and start looking for a fancy software to create, to create your poster. You can easily do it in Excel and print it in whatever way you want. You can change the layout. Let's say if you're working in Excel, you can choose to change the layout from landscape to portrait and all of that. So this is where you can create your posters, and then you can then have them created. But one of the features we're building the Chisquares platform is to allow you to create posters in seconds, as well as slides, but that's coming, much later. But let's go back to our. So you have make sure you comply with the themes of the organization, right? At CDC here, we have templates for everything. You just can't go rogue and do your thing. We are a very strict organization, so everything is templated. So we all look the same boring self. And your organization, if they have templates, make sure you comply with that. If they don't, well, you can feel free to go wild, but don't go too wild, right? Don't use all the colors of a rainbow. It makes it look kind of like, it just gives somebody a headache immediately. Make sure you use solid colors for background. Try not to have too many colors. So here, this is a good mix. You have blue at the background, and then you have this color, which kind of matches very well. Make sure that there's contrast between the background text and the elements here. So there's no rule on how you can choose how you should make a poster. You can section it any way you want, right? So for example, here, I can choose to make my poster in such a way that I have 3 lines, I can choose to segment it in 3 lines such that I have, here I have the introduction, the methods, I have a big results here, and then I have a discussion, and I have references here. That's one. There's no rule on these things, right? Or I can choose to say, I'm going to do it this way, whereby I have the introduction and the results here and the conclusion here. That's completely fine. I can also choose to have a layout where I don't even have sectioning. I can have one large figure in the middle here and then have the key elements around it, right? There's no rule on what you must do. Another option that might help is also having boxes where you can choose to insert boxes. So here you might have a box for introduction, another one for, for example, for results. You might choose to have a bigger field for, let's say, so introduction methods, results and discussion can come in here. And then you might have this section for one long section for references or discussion and references. Again, this is completely up to you. However, you can knock yourself out however you want. And then have up here, you have your name and your affiliation. It's always a good idea to include a footer so that you can provide key information like the contact information, follow-up information, the corresponding information, any disclaimers. If you work in certain organizations, we always have to provide disclaimers on a million things. So here you can provide so always try and include a footer where you can always provide that necessary information at the bottom here as needed. But the point is that there's no rule that says this is how a poster must look like. It's completely up to your imagination. But the point is that don't make it too cluttered. Don't make it too, the font too small. Again, less is more. The people who are working by a poster only have like a few seconds to see what you're trying to present and make sense of it. So don't give them a headache, right? So these are some of the key principles to bear in mind when creating those. All right. We're going to pick one of those things, those 4 elements, and do it in real time so you can see how to think through it. But I'm going to stop now and see if you have any questions. I believe I have gone through all this. Let me just verify that I have indeed covered this 4 or 5. Yes, we've covered all of this. So, so before we look at a case study, just pick one of them and create it. Do you have any questions? This is a very quiet bunch. All right, I'll take that. That's no questions then. Let me check the chat box to see if there are. All right. All right. So we're going to pick one of those things and do them. Which would you like to see demonstrated? I think we only have time for one of them. So what we just covered was just basic principles to allow you to figure it out later on. But we'll just take one of them and just demonstrate and perhaps see how you can use existing tools to your advantage in them. So all right. We've had people in the social science always complain that their work is not covered. So I'll try and make sure we do something that aligns with that area of research. So okay, I see there are a lot of answers, policy briefs, posters, and all of that. All right, let me quickly do a survey. We'll do a survey and then we'll see how we can just use the results from the survey directly. And so that way we can see how we can build efficiencies in, and maybe actually that's a good way. I'm going to ask you what would you like to have for us to do? And based on the results of that survey, we'll do that. All right, so let me create a quick survey on Chisquares platform, and we're going to use the results directly to create whatever it is that we have agreed upon. So let me log in quickly. So somebody was asking about smokeless tobacco. Smokeless tobacco is like chewing tobacco. So that's what it is. As the name implies, it's something that is not smokeless. But it doesn't really matter. The topic, what it is, doesn't really matter in this context. We're just demonstrating how to create those different topics using that, as a case study. So let me create a survey. For those of you who are not familiar with the Chisquares platform, it's a research platform where you can do everything that is research related, from sample size calculation to study design to data collection and so on and so forth. Right. So we just want to create a quick survey. Let's call it attitudes and experiences towards creating scientific products for research translation. All right, so let's say to assess experiences. Geez, I'm lazy. Let me just generate with AI. So we're going to create a quick survey, and then we're going to use the results from that survey to create a policy brief or whatever it is that we want to do. So let's create, select a few aims, and clear the remaining ones away, and the keywords. Let me generate those as well. Okay, I'm going to skip for now. All right, let me add a few questions. Let me add an MCQ. Please select one product, your favorite product, which you would like to see demonstrated in the class today. Right, and so let's call this demo, and the options are policy briefs, press release, let's call this poster, slides, infographic, and I believe, let me see if that means anything. Graphic is there, policy briefs there, press release. Okay, we can't do a media interview, obviously, unless want to do a mock session, but that's never going to happen. Okay, posters and slides. Okay, that covers it. And let me just add an order. Please specify. Let's push that questionnaire. Let's add a second question. Let's see how scared you are about speaking in. Let's use if you were asked to speak on behalf of your agency, what is the first, or let's say type the word that would describe your immediate reaction. All right, so emotional. So you're just supposed to type a word that's okay. If you say, all right, come and speak on behalf of, let's say, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, how will you feel? All right, that's that's enough. Let's just go ahead and launch the survey. Let's survey start today and end tomorrow. That's fine. All right, let me just quickly preview the survey to make sure it makes sense. All right. Okay. All right, that's fine. Let's launch it and have you guys take it. So launch. All right, let me share the link. Let me drop it here. All right, so please take the survey so we'll know. So we want it to be fair so that we do something that everybody, the majority, are interested in seeing. So our survey is live now. So it's just 2 short questions. So please take them. Meanwhile, let me see if there are other questions that we can answer in the meantime. In the press release, do you include dates after quoting the authority? No, you don't. A press release typically has the one date. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So this is going back to the press release. So every press release has a date at the beginning. So here, for example, this is an embargo date. But let me show you a more simpler press release, for example. Let me open this one here. Let's see, where's the link to edit this? All right, so oh, by the way, this is just showing you the media outlets that this is shared with. So these are all the organizations that would see the report. So different companies or different press release companies have different reach. So you want to research that to make sure that you are happy with the reach before you spend your hard-earned money to do a press release. Let me look at where's the this is the description report. Perhaps there has to be a way to, maybe it's such a long that it's now expired. But the point I was trying to show is that let me see what this URL is. This is what I was trying to show. So every press release will typically start with the place and the date. So Atlanta, Georgia, United States, September 30th, 2024. That's how a press releases start in general. So the date and place is already stamped at the beginning. So maybe one of the things you can also do is take a look at other press releases and see, but this is standard. Atlanta, Georgia, United States, Lagos, Nigeria, September, whatever. That's at the beginning. So everything in that press release is assumed to be associated with that date. So no, you don't have to start providing the dates for the different things at every point in place. That will be very redundant. All right, let me see the other questions here. Ilya, I think some people are having issues with unmuting. Do you want to allow people to speak, please? So someone is asking a question about what is SOCO. So SOCO is, let me go back to my slides, SOHCO. So in other places, some people might spell it as SOCO, single overriding communication objective, or in this case, single overriding health communication objective. Yours might not be a health issue, and it could be any type of issue. But in this case, this is a health agency, CDC. So our framework was so-called single overriding health communication objective. You have one, you are like you have this one message and you must stick to that message no matter where this interviewer is taking you to. You got to stick with your circle. That's a fundamental aspect of media training, how to stick with the circle. Yeah, Lion King, you have your hand up. If you're speaking, you are still on mute.
Yeah, Prof,
okay.
Prof, good evening.
Hello, yes.
Yeah, I just asked a question on the page that you were talking about posters. And so I'm asking whether there's a difference between poster and a poster presentation format.
No, it's the same thing. So
okay.
Poster means that you're going to present a poster. Generally, when you have in a conference, you have either oral or poster. Although in more modern conferences are trying to create a hybrid where you have what they call rapid fire. So it's a poster, but you're allowed 5 minutes or very short or 2 minutes to present it orally. But in general, poster is just one slide where you have all the information on that, as opposed to an oral presentation where you have multiple slides. That's the same thing. All right, any other questions? You can just unmute yourself and speak. I believe you are all unmuted now. All right, wow, we have a lot of responses. So let's look at let's just download the report. Let's download the analysis report. We're going to need it for the whole population. All right, that has downloaded. Let's view the results. All right, so the vast majority are interested in us having a poster. So 33.8% percent are interested in poster, and that's the visualization here. And this is the word cloud of we see there are a lot of anxious people. Anxious is the word that comes first to mind for people who have to speak on behalf of the agency. Then we see excited. Somebody says really. We have words like inexperienced and wow and jittery and all of those, right? So so this is a very good way we can summarize information, right? Because again, the whole point is that you don't want to present. Imagine you're going to present this information this way versus in a tabular format like this. This is overwhelming. Like nobody's going to understand what you're saying here. So the first rule of thumb is figure out how best you're going to create that in a way that will be, interesting and will make sense. So let's go ahead and create a poster based on the data we have collected here. So first of all, like we said, we're going to use our PowerPoint. We don't need any specialized software. We can just create it in PowerPoint directly. So we'll have to choose what format we want to create it in, whether it's landscape or portrait, right? Generally, you want to make sure that you look at the instructions provided by the organization and the size of the posters, right? So posters have different sizes. So you want to make sure that when you're printing it, you make sure you conform to the size, whether it's in portrait mode or in landscape mode. So that is this is a sneak peek of what we're allowing creating the Chisquares platform. You get to select your anyway. I'm not going to tell you guys. When we create it, you're going to see it yourselves. All right. So now you start with a blank page. If you want, you can search templates that already exist. I always prefer starting from scratch so that it's just easier. I don't necessarily like reworking templates. So in this case, I'm going to have a basic flow of what I want. So from a blank page, I want to have a header. So I'm going to select, let's say, quick shape here. let's say this is going to be my header. And you don't worry about colors and how things look pretty. You can always worry about that later. So this is FBR, fast, bad, and wrong. Remember, the FBR principle applies everywhere. So this is going to contain my my name and my affiliation, maybe with my co-authors. That's going to be contained here. And then I'm going to have a footer there that will contain any disclaimers from my organization if they exist, right? That's going to go there. For this, I want to have, let's say, a introduction. I only have 2 data points here, which are the tables and the tables and the figure, the word cloud analysis. So I might want to have those 2 here in a central place, or I could choose to have, let me do it this way. And again, this is completely up to you. There's nobody telling that you have to create it this way. This is, you can go wild here. The only thing that we ask is that make sure that it is legible and clear for people to understand. I don't want too much overwhelming color, so I'm going to make sure that I will just make this no fill to make sure that it's just there's no fill in it. And perhaps I can use, if your organization has a theme, let's say your organization has a red theme, you want to make sure that you follow the theme of your organization. Chisquares, for example, our color is greenish. So in that case, you might want to make sure it reflects the theme of your organization. Again, don't worry about colors. You can change all of those things. You can change them later. And please, whoever it is that's writing on the stuff, please stop writing. So here I have 2 figures, right? I can choose to have figure 1 here, figure 2 here, or have 2 data points I want to present. So I can choose to have them here. This is the first figure. This is the second one. So let me grab them. Where is this? All right. So here, for example, I might choose to just crop this. And take it to and resize it as needed. So that's my first figure there that goes in there. Or if I want it to be if this is the crux of my presentation, I can just make it really big, right? Again, remember there's no hard and fast rule here. So let's say I want this to occupy the whole, like a substantial section of it. So I'm going to have to create some room for the title of a figure up here. So let's grab the second one. So here I can choose to have so this is a good figure, so I can use this one. So again, it's very important that whatever you're doing, you make sure you prioritize legibility, right? Whatever you're doing has to be legible. People have to understand what you're doing. So that should come first over any other thing. So it's better to present less information and make it very obvious and very clear than to present a lot of cluttered information that nobody can understand. You can choose to again, this is up to you completely. You can choose to place one on top of the other. Like, these are all things that you can decide. But here, since I have just 2 of them, I choose to place them, side by side to drive the point home. So I can put them in the center here like this. And let me crop them so it doesn't take so much space. But ideally, hopefully, you're going to create a figure that is high resolution. And let me remove the edges that I don't need. All right. And so we have our key data here. Let me reduce the height a little to allow me room to. All right, so now I can go ahead and put some of the key elements of my of my work, which includes my text, introduction, methods, results, and discussion. Let's do that and let's see how that looks like. So here I see that this space, this one, they are rather short. So that leaves me some space here. So one of the things I could do is I can say, I'm going to present some information here, and then I'm going to create another text here. So let me just duplicate this. Oops, I don't want to save. So the secret to creating posters is look out for where the space is. So here I see that the space is at the bottom. So I can easily narrow this here and add another text box in this area. Right? That way I'm fully utilizing the spaces available to me. So here I can type my text here. I can type my text here. And if necessary, I can, there's not much space here. So what I could do is either reduce this figure. So I have two options here. One option is to reduce the figures so that they're small but still visible, and then create another space. So it's all about hunting for white space where you can find that space. So here I choose to utilize this space here. Again, this is FBR. It's going to look ugly. That's fine. At this point, we're just hunting for white space, right? And then I can put that space here so that I can have text coming here and here and here. And then here I can have my text, my images. So here I could have this. Let's put this image here. So let me expand this to full. You also want to make sure that you don't look like an amateur by the lines. Make sure that the lines align perfectly. So this line and this line, they should align perfectly. So you can just do that by select the boxes in question. You come to shape format, align left. That snaps them together so they're perfectly aligned. So whenever you have lines, make sure they align perfectly so that you don't end up looking like an amateur. The same thing with these top edges. I'll click this and I'll click this and I'll align top so that they're all at the top together. These are things you don't have to do at the beginning. Worry about the content first. Later on, you can worry about the how things align. So I'm going to duplicate this and also create its own box for it here. And so now I can have some titles. And if you want, you can, make these figures a bit smaller so that you have some space to breathe. So now I'm going to have some titles for my figures. So let me insert the text box. So I'm going to call this figure 1. Here is the figure. And figure 2. Here is the figure. Generally, you want to make sure that, the text for the figure can be slightly smaller than the rest of the text. And you can also use a different, color so it pops out, right? It's always a good practice to provide some footnotes that explains the figure. So here, I'm going to take this text and create some footnote here. Again, to make sure that it pops out, well, you guys have completely covered my screen with lines. I cannot even see anywhere. I can add some background color. Let's say, prevalence of, or the percentage reporting XYZ was highest among ABC. Again, this text doesn't have to be very large. You can definitely make it smaller. The idea is that the reader doesn't have to start here and start interpreting it themselves. Of course, you can see the figure, but you've allowed them to just read it immediately. Not everybody has, time to sit down and start reading through your figure. And some figures can be quite confusing so that the user cannot even interpret it themselves. So providing the interpretation for them at the bottom is helpful so that they can make sense of it immediately. So here we also have that same text. Let's say, the word cloud was very cloudy. So I'm just making, just being silly. All right. So you have text there that explains what it is. So here we'll provide the figures, we'll provide an explanation so that the reader who comes here and doesn't have time can just see it at the stretch. Can we please remove those lines? Ilya, is there a way you can remove those lines in the background? I can barely see the screen. Okay, so here we can type the text for introduction or background. It doesn't matter what you call it, right? This is our background. So you want to calculate the spaces you have. So here you don't want to have too much background. Make sure it's bulleted. Everything is in bullets. So here I can add background, methods, results, and conclusion, and maybe references here. I can, however I want to do it. Or I can say, this is background, methods, results, summary of results, and it's up to you. This is where you can be creative. So background, and then in bullets. So bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3. And so again, if it's bullets, you want to make sure they're actually bullets. So, right. And this is how we write so you want to make sure you have, maybe between 5 and 6 bullets. That's a good number of bullets to have. Again, nothing too wild. You're not supposed to write an encyclopedia here. So you have a background, you have the methods, you have the key results. A poster doesn't have to follow the exact pattern of a result of a manuscript where you have introduction, methods, results, and discussion. You have more license to do whatever you want, right? And then here you have, implications. Let's grab this here. Implications, where we can have all the implications. Maybe 2 bullets, for example, that would suffice. And then you also have your references. You want to have, don't go crazy with references, please. This is not a manuscript. It's okay to have 2 references. Five references are more than enough. Please don't go beyond 5 references on a poster. 5 is actually a lot, so you can choose to have this as 2 separate boxes, right? It's completely up to you. There's no rule that says this is how you must do it. Just make sure that you take your time, focus on creating the content first, and then later you can come and make it pretty. Again, FBR, fast, bad, and wrong. And then here you can have, let's say, your references, and then here we can have disclaimers. If you work in an organization that requires you to have disclaimers, so here we might have a disclaimer, like, for example, that says the findings in this report are those of the authors and do not represent the United States government. All right, so that's a disclaimer we have put there. It can be 1 line, and of course, it can reduce the font size. And we can also have contact information or corresponding author address. If you want people to contact you, or any other information you want to provide, right, can go into the footnotes. And then up at the top here, you have your name, The title should be in a larger font, obviously. Title of the poster. We gotta make that big and bold. And then your affiliate, your name, and names of your co-authors. Next. So names. You can make that slightly larger. And affiliations. Oops. All right. So, and that is how you make a poster. Now, if you have a logo, most organizations have a logo. You can put the logo somewhere. So if this is our logo, for example, we can insert the logo. You can insert it to the left, or you can insert it to the right, whatever makes you happy, right? There's no standard. Some posters have a poster ID. If there's a poster ID, it always makes sense to put it below or near the logo. So just people are used to seeing it that way. Poster number will go here, or you can put it anywhere you want. There's no law that says this is how it must go. But again, this is how you can, for example, create a poster. Just focusing on the key items, right? You don't have to go crazy, but it's about how do we present the information so that somebody can look at it at a glance and know. So the moral of the story is that you can create your poster however you want. There's no rule that says this is how the poster must be. It's completely up to you. And don't worry about making it pretty at the beginning. Just worry about the layout. Later on, you can come and worry about making sure the edges are aligned and everything is beautiful. But now, don't worry about the color. Don't worry about anything. Just make sure that where are we going to position this content or that content. All right. Any other questions? You guys are awfully quiet today. All right. I take there are no questions. Oh, I see some hands. You can unmute yourself and ask. Ilya, are people muted or what? Is Ilya, are you still here? Okay, if you have questions, can you just type them in the chat box? I think we might be having problems with.
Thank you, Prof. Sorry, network logged me out. I've been trying to unmute, like I've been messaging you, but I'm sure you can't see it because you are very busy. Let me try and unmute some participants so they can. Oh, I cannot do that. I'm no longer the host.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Let's see.
Sorry about that.
No worries at all. Okay, let me make you the host. All right, you are the host once more.
Okay, let me unmute them so they can ask questions.
Hello.
All right.
Yeah, my question is that if we want to create this poster for presentation, are we going to use Chisquares or there's another app that we can employ into the Chisquares to be able to help us create the poster? Thank you.
Well, we're working on the feature for posters, but it's not coming out tomorrow. So until it comes out, you have to do it manually yourself. That's what we just went through, the whole process of doing it from scratch, so you can see how to do it. But when we release it, when we release the feature for creating posters, you can literally do that in seconds without having to go through all of this processes. But for now, you have to do it yourself manually. All right, any other next question, please?
Hello, you can unmute and speak, please. Everyone should be able to unmute now. Olatunji, you can mute and speak. Okay, Dr. Abayomi, please unmute and speak. No, you should be able to unmute. Try it now.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for the presentation. So I wanted to ask about how we inserted the QR code for poster, and I also want to know, is there a specific is there a standard way? Do you prefer the landscape or the scale shaped one? Like, what is like the standard, and also the QR code? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So the standard will be shared with you by the organization. The organization might say this is the standard we want. If the organization does not provide any standard, then you are free to do whatever you want. You can make a landscape, you can do a portrait. That is up to you. But please, before you do a poster, make sure you call your printer and ask them, are you able to print this poster in this whatever? The printer might say, oh, no, we don't have paper for landscape. Well, there you go. Your answer is that you can only do it a particular way. So don't assume that it's going to be ready. So check the requirements for the journal, for the conference. And then if they say, we want posters in this way, well, then you must do it that way. If you don't say anything, you can do it however way you want. Now, regarding your second question about how do you provide the code. So in other words, some people typically will provide the QR code for the poster. Please, can we mute ourselves if we're not speaking? There's a lot of background interruption, please. Abraham Poyara, can you mute yourself, please? All right, so the last person was asking, well, I want to have a QR code for my poster. How do I do that? Well, first of all, you're going to save your poster. So let's save this poster. Let's save it in the downloads as mock poster. So we've saved this poster. Next, we're going to have to upload it into somewhere. If you have Dropbox, you can upload it into your Dropbox, right? So let's upload into Dropbox, for example. So upload file, downloads. This is the mock poster. All right, so we have our mock poster uploaded here. Next, we want to make sure we can copy the link for that poster that we just uploaded now. So I will click on share and copy link. So I've copied the link to the poster. Next, I'll go to any platform that allows me to create QR codes. For example, Bitly. Bitly, I believe, is a well, you can sign up for free if you don't have one. Adobe too allows you to, let me see which one I have currently that I can. Geez, how am I not logged into my I never seem to remember my login passwords. All right, let me see if I can just create Bitly. Let me sign up for free. Let me continue with Google. Remind me later. All right, so I want to just create a link. So I can just come to create now, create new link, and just paste the link that I have copied from So my link is ready. And now I can, but actually what I want to do is get a QR code. So let's go to create QR code for this. I can add all manner of colors I want to read based on the theme. If my organization has, for example, a green theme, and I want to just use a green theme, and now I can copy this image and go back to my poster, and let's see. Let me just take a screenshot so I don't have to save it first. So now so you can put your post, you can put it here, or anywhere strategic, right? It doesn't have to be up top. Usually I would advise you, when you're doing a poster, always try and leave a space for take home message in bold. That's always a good idea, so that the user can just look at that message quickly and know, oh, this is the main message from this. So so here in my poster, this is my main take home message in here in bold. And I can say here that smoking is bad for you. Nothing complicated. Right, that's a take home message. And here, that take home message also has the QR code. So it's not, there's not a lot of information overload. The user their eyes just gravitate there because it's colorful and it's big, and every other thing goes in here. So if you scan this QR code now, it's going to allow you to download this poster. So that's how you're going to create it. All right, next question.
Hello, Prof. My question is the word cloud. Looking at the words, some are similar. Is there a way the system can put those that are similar into one category? Like, for instance, we have seen excited and then excitement. Can it be possible?
That's no longer word cloud analysis. That's thematic analysis now. A word cloud analysis does not interpret the data. It just what the statistical basis behind a word cloud analysis, what any word cloud analysis, the algorithm behind it is that it takes the text, it removes stopper words like is, are, or connector words, it removes them, and whatever is left, it then aggregates it and look at the frequency of those words. It is not the job of any word cloud analysis to start summarizing the data. Once you start summarizing, that's no longer word cloud analysis. You've entered the different domain of thematic analysis.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Prof. Good evening, Prof.
Hello.
Yes, very nice presentation as always. Sorry, my question is not really on your presentation tonight. I was the one that was asking earlier about the training you promised us yesterday, that when is it likely to hold? So I just wanted to know if I'm actually eager. I want to get certified for taking research or doing research and all that.
Okay.
Thank you, Prof.
You're welcome. So this is the ethics review or ethics training. So what we'll have to do is that these things require some planning. So we need to plan with the relevant authorities. It's the license, the certificate you're going to get will have to bear both our seal and a seal of the IRB that is hosting the training. So it's going to take but we're going to announce it. I hope you follow us on LinkedIn so that when we announce it, you will be able to know that it's up. But there are some logistical things that we need to put in place, like reaching out to the ethical review board and making sure that we create an MOU between Chisquares and that organization, and we can create a certification pathway and decide on what the training is going to look like. So since it's not just myself involved, I will have to we'll get back to you on that when that discussion takes place.
All right, thank you, Prof.
You're welcome.
Do Do we have anyone that wants to ask a question? Okay, no one. So I've shared the attendance link. Please endeavor to take it, unless if you don't want to get
Hello,
certificates.
sir.
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Can hear you clearly.
Okay. Mine is not really on today's class. I have an issue with my account because I used a different laptop. So I tried to log in to audition 3 times, and I was now locked out from my account. And I tried to do that, forgot this thing password where they will now send a link to my mail, but it's still not working. I can't log in into my account
Were you able to get the
anymore.
Were you able to get the recovery email, or you didn't?
Yes, I have.
So you got the recovery email and you reset the pass. Did you reset the password?
Like I wasn't able to get to the part where I'll be able to reset the this thing.
Okay, so
Password.
okay, so it's you are waiting for it to show, but it's not going to show by itself. You have to go there. So when
as in, I do get a mail that always expires after 30 seconds.
Okay, so let me walk you through the process. When you come here, you come to forgot password, right?
Yeah.
You're going to type your email here and click on recover password. That will trigger an email that will be sent to you that will clearly say, click here to recover your password or something of that nature. When you click on that link, one of the things it will do is to have you create a new password. So if you have not yet created a new password, that means you've not completed the step yet. So you have to go and try again. Make sure that you get the email. If you've not gotten it, make sure you check your spam and make sure that you actually complete the process by creating a new password. That's the whole point of recovery, password recovery.
So you're seeing Rahim. You can ask your question.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. I want to appreciate Prof for the excellent time he has dedicated to the participant. Please, in the course of your presentation, you mentioned the sites, various sites from where one could pick images and pictures for infographics. But I missed those 2 sites that you mentioned. Please, could you kindly remind us of those 2 sites that you mentioned?
So we're talking about Pixabay. Pixabay is great for, you can specify the kind of images you are interested. So if you look at the top here, you have photos, you have illustrations. Illustrations are things that are not necessarily photos, they are more artistic in nature. You have vectors, and you can then also specify by what kind of tone you want, whether you want, so whatever it is, you just search for it and you specify what you're searching for, right? You can also search for things like music and videos and audio and whatever it is that it's in there. So the first one is Pixabay. The second one I mentioned was illustrations, or I think flat icons. Flat icons allows you to and if you don't know, just Google flat icons, right? If you search on Google, that's almost the first thing you're going to find. And you can then search for the icon you're looking for. So let's say you're interested in, let's say, tobacco control. There's an icon that pops up. So you see, it pulls up that icon, and I can just choose to, copy it as PNG or whatever format I want and use it for my work. Also explore other ones that are there, and many others. You can also just Google, sites for free illustrations. There are also other sites that allow you to free illustrations. There's, for example, FreePic. There are literally hundreds of thousands of these things. So you can look for what you're interested in. This will be good for infographics. So you also want to make sure that you're using the right images for the right. Illustrations are good for infographics. Illustrations will not be appropriate for posters. But for infographics, where things are meant to be simplified and fun, yeah, you can use infographics in those kind of settings. But for images, for posters, you want to make sure you either create the images yourself or create a figure. If you're using the Chisquares platform to collect your data, you can simply just, screenshot, the part you're interested in. Let's say you did a word cloud analysis, you can just literally screenshot that and use that. But yeah, you can, there's no rule of thumb. You can really go wild on these things. All right, next question.
Thank you, Prof. Blessing. Ejiogu. Blessing, can you unmute and ask your question? Okay, while we wait, Kwada.
Okay, as you said that you can look for infographics, what if you have the pictures? Maybe you want to upload the picture on your.
Well, like I said earlier, there are no rules. You can do whatever you want.
Oh.
If you have a picture, you can show, as far as it makes sense, obviously. But these are just examples I'm showing. But like I said earlier, there is no rule that says this is what you must use. I think that's one of the things I established at the beginning. Yes.
Sir? And,
sorry?
Just to illustrate, or you want to demonstrate what you wanted to do.
Yeah, you can use imagery to illustrate whatever it is what you're trying to do, as far as it makes sense. Obviously, you don't want to go wild and make the thing become like a childish playground. Clearly not. But tempered use of infographics of images always especially in infographics, it always makes it come alive. But make sure you are tempered in your use of it. Don't overdo it.
Blessing, are you here? Okay, I'm not sure she's here. So again, I shared the attendance link. Please ensure you take the attendance so you can get certificates. I also shared links to our social media platforms, our LinkedIn, our WhatsApp community, and then our YouTube channel. Please ensure to follow us on on LinkedIn, and join the WhatsApp community if you are not there. We share announcements on those WhatsApp communities. I'm not sure there's any question, Prof. So.
Okay. All right, super. Thanks everyone for your time. This is the last session, episode of the session, and so the scientific writing class has officially come to an end. You're going to get certificates at the end of this last class. Let me see. Any other issues?
Yeah, sorry, Prof. Someone is saying he has a question. I don't know why he didn't raise his hand. Can you ask your question, please, before Prof leaves?
Good evening, sir.
Hello.
Hello, good evening, sir.
I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, sir, my question is not about the topic of today. I'm looking for, where is Longile?
Longile.
Okay. She's
on
Don't worry, you see her next week.
Okay, sir.
I'll tell her that
My
she's
regards to her.
okay. That is a good question.
Because she's really
Clap for miracle.
serious for us.
Yeah, she is. I'll tell her that she was missed.
Okay, Usman, yeah, you want to ask a question? Okay, Ngozi, your hand is up too. Ngozi, can you hear me? No, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Okay, I had Prof saying that this is the last class. Is it going to be the last, as in for every course given out for this train?
No, this is the last class of this series, so we haven't announced the next whatever course we're taking. For this series, this is the last one.
For this series, okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Hello.
Okay, this
Hello,
is
Prof. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, if you're not speaking, how can you mute ourselves, please? Yes, continue.
Hello, Prof.
Yes, Ngozi, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. My concern and worry is on the slide because I've been asking the same question over and over again on the chat. You know, coming from social sciences, I don't know, if all we have can contain in one slide regarding the poster presentation. Must it be a one-slide presentation?
Yes, it must be one slide. And your job as a scientist, if you're a social scientist, you're still a scientist, is to be a communicator. It is not okay to say because you did a lot of work, you will kill your participants with death by PowerPoint. Death by PowerPoint is always a bad idea, right? So the art of science, learning how to take a large body of information and distill it into small enough text. Anyone can say things in a very complicated manner. It takes a lot of thought to summarize things and distill them into a very concise manner that everybody can understand. So it doesn't matter what your discipline is. You should still be able to summarize information that highlights the most important thing. I hope that answers your question.
What about where you have the results, that comes in tables? So how do you put those ones in poster? How do you present touch?
So, okay, let's look at the. So can you see my screen? Sorry, please. This individual,
Mr. Mohammed.
Can you mute yourself, please? All right. So when you have a table, see this is an example. There's the table here, right?
Okay, sir.
But try not to have, one table is more than enough. If you're going above one table, you're doing too much. It is not meant to be it's supposed to be a concise display. What's the most important thing? So we can all agree that if everything is important, then nothing is important, right? So not everything can be equally important. Then that means nothing is important. So you should be able to figure out which are the most important findings that you have in this whole. It doesn't matter whether your manuscript is 10,000 pages. What is the most important thing? What is the take-home message? Right? This goes back to the SOCO. What is the single overriding health communication objective? Right? If you cannot fit that in one slide, then there's something seriously wrong. It's either that your message, you don't have a key message and that you're everywhere, or that you have to go and learn communication and know how to simplify things. And now, if you don't know how communication, this is where you can use ChatGPT. You can put all this volume of information in ChatGPT and say, please summarize this information in a way I can use on the poster. So these are ways you can use ChatGPT to make your life easier. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it's okay.
Right,
Yeah,
great.
thank you.
You're
Because
welcome.
my concern was just on the table, part of it, the result, if it's necessary to put all of them in the poster presentation. It's okay, it's not clear. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Blessing, your hand is up still. You want to talk?
Yes, I want to talk.
Okay.
Prof, thank you so much.
You're
Please,
welcome.
how did you generate the word cloud?
It's done automatically for you by the Chisquares platform. I didn't generate it myself.
Okay.
If the platform knows the kind of questions you're asking, and it does the right kind of analysis on that question automatically by itself.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Habiba.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. First of all, we do miss Lungile, please. Send our regards to her. In the same line, you guys seem like a very close-knit team. The banter is just lovely. It seems like a great working environment where, you can just be yourself, have fun, but you're getting serious work done. So I just wanted to commend the whole team. And this is the last class, and I'm missing Prof already. So, but thank you so much. We've learned so much from you. It's great to learn from you. Honestly, you're very versatile. I almost feel like you know everything, even though you seem to come from a background of health. When you get to my own field, I'm not seeing any cracks. It's lovely. So I want to say thank you so much for bringing this to us and for even giving it to us free. Honestly, what we have learned here it's worth a lot, and I appreciate it. I hope one day we can have opportunity to also join your team. Honestly, it will be lovely to work with all of you guys. And then I wanted to say, why do you have like a Ghanaian tinge in your accent? I was surprised the day you said you're Nigerian. I was like, interesting. I'm hearing a bit of Ghana in there. I don't know why.
Really? Are you from Ghana?
I'm not, but I did part of my education in Ghana. So I still have some words that I've retained in the Ghanaian pronunciation. So I can kind of tell from yours. I don't know if you lived there at any point.
No, I haven't, but I'm a soccer aficionado. I love playing soccer, and almost everybody on my team is from Ghana. So maybe they've rubbed up.
I think so. I think it's not maybe, they have rubbed up on you.
I'll let
but
them
thank
know.
you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah.
We appreciate what you've done for us. God bless you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Prof, suddenly we have a lot of hands up. Okay.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Professor, thank you. I've attended almost all your sessions, and it's always a wealth of knowledge to learn and pick up from it. Thank you so much for all the sessions. My particular question I have today is about the platform. I'm trying to use it, but I've got further question. I emailed the team, and I haven't heard from them. So normally, how long does it take to hear from the team?
Typically, it takes 24 to 48 hours. So maybe your email fell through the cracks or went through spam. So you might want to send the email again, please.
Okay, I will do. It has been a week now. I was waiting for a week, so I will resend it again. And I send you direct message from LinkedIn, but I realized that maybe that might not be the right channel. So that's why I send the email through the info at Chi-Square. So I will resend it there. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's always a good way to send if you want your email read. Because I get a lot of messages which I cannot read all of them. So you're more assured of getting a response by just emailing info@chisquares.com.
Fantastic. I will re-email again. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. If you're
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you clearly.
Hey, Prof. Nice to meet you once again. It's Amadou.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm
Question
good.
and
I'm
answer.
good.
Kindly lower your hand so we know 7 hands up. So
Can you hear me?
Cecile, Precious.
Okay, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, yes.
Okay, sure. I just wanted to shed light on, the proposition we had earlier, more on if, for example, having a sort of a working group, try to group or stratify based on research interest. So I think it is something that we can be working on. I remember the survey link was shared. We had 1 or 2 responses from each of those interested participants. So maybe a quick reminder for those that may be kind of interested in that could, fill in that link. And yeah, from there, I don't know, Prof, maybe I need to reach out to you at some point, maybe working with 1 or 2 team at Chisquares that can also help facilitate this process. I was more thinking like, now that we are wrapping up this scientific session, I think it would be a good start in more like enhancing the capacity of the potential group members in the writing group, where we have a couple of data sets that we may want to explore, and we can group ourselves on research groups and all of that. It is just something that I want to shed light on. So basically, no question, to be honest. So yeah, this is something I'm excited to collaborate with you.
Yeah, definitely, and we look forward to that. So maybe we can touch base on that and just maybe iron out how that's going to work.
Okay, cool. And then the last appeal would be for different universities around the world. I got invited at some point to do more like a scientific presentation. I don't know whether to adapt your slide, maintaining all the details and everything. That could also be another way of extending more like an advertisement for Chisquares, if it is okay. Other than that, I can still work on it something. But other than that, I would want to reach out to you if that is okay with you, or else I can, put up something different.
Yeah, our materials are completely open access. So once we put anything in the public domain, you can use it however you want. You can, of course, as far as you don't misrepresent Chisquares, but you can use it anyhow you want. We don't require people to come and it's not
written approved. Okay,
exactly.
Cool. All right, sounds good. Thank you so much, bro. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, Prof. Good evening.
Hello.
Yeah, I want to ask, thank you so much for all the lectures. Really appreciate. Please, I want to know if we can get the recordings anyway to go through it at our own leisure, because Mondays to Fridays, 9 to 5 jobs, we may not be able to attend all the lectures. So we can go back to the recordings and understand it better.
Yeah, our videos are always on YouTube. We the events are live streamed and the videos are there. So I believe that Ilya shared our social media links, including YouTube. So you might want to go there and access the historical archive.
All right. Thank you so much. God bless you.
You're welcome. Yes.
Hello, Prof.
Hello.
Yes. Sorry, it's Dr. Abayomi once again. I asked a question earlier. I just remembered to ask you if the process for including some authors on this, you advertised something about translational research sometimes back, if one wants to be a co-author on an Elsevier paper. So I wouldn't know if the process of selection is on currently, and maybe we'll get a feedback for some of us that showed interest. That is one. Secondly, I think that's second to the last speaker was trying to say, I didn't hear him very clearly, but he was trying to say something about a group, maybe for epidemiologists or something, where research processes or something like that can be engaged in to know more, to build oneself. I wouldn't know if that was what was asking, but I would love a situation where such groups can be open to some of us, and then we can participate. Thank you.
Yeah, all right. So to answer the second question first, yes, the groups are, the idea was to have groups where people can actually publish, so that you're not just learning without putting into practice. So there are like, vast amount of publicly available data sets. So we will harness those data sets to address public health questions or even clinical questions of importance in a way you learn, and you have teams. So we put out a survey, and quite a number of people indicated interest in joining the writing group. It's completely voluntary, but it's also self-led. So it's you and the team will lead themselves. So we just wanted to provide that forum where people who were interested could join hands and say, hey, let's work on the paper together and publish it, right? So one of the things we can do is that we can send out that link again to the entire community.
Please, I'm interested.
Yeah, so people can sign up, and Amadou, who spoke 2 individuals back, is the one leading the entire exercise. So be responsible for then, assigning people into groups and figuring out what their interests are, and what kind of topics will be explored in the whole activity. Then for the Elsevier book chapters, if you express interest, I got your interest. I just now have to reach out to you to help with the which sections you're going to write. So I should do that in the next 2. An assistant of mine is helping me put all of the metadata together. So I'm going to share that information, shortly with the individuals involved, so you can be able to know what part you're writing and then comments on that.
Okay, thank you, Prof. So I'm interested in the group of that man, please. I wouldn't know if the link can be reshared. Thank you.
The link will be reshared, yes.
All right, thank you, Prof.
Jasil Precious, can you ask your question?
Good evening, Prof. Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Sir, you spoke just a few moments ago from someone who threw a question that we should be able to make our presentation very concise, making sure to label the very exigent details as should, and we shouldn't go off the book. My question goes this way: in an interactive presentation where something outside of your, let's say, current presentation was brought up, what are you expected to do? Are you expected to engage the extracurricular presentation for some sort of backup or something? Because sometimes we believe that information being power, we might not really need to scrap out every part of it and then consider one's more important than the other. In such a situation, what am I to do?
Okay, so first of all, can the people speaking about, can you cut this out, please? I'm not sure who those people are, but no. I think it seems to be the same. Let me see who that is. Ilya, please, can you find that?
Yes, I think I've done that.
Okay, thanks. So a PowerPoint presentation is we call it a presentation aid. It's called an aid because it's not supposed to aid you. It's not supposed to replace you, right? So when you now have a whole huge stack of slides and you're just presenting a slide like verbatim, this is called death by PowerPoint, right? This presentation, the slides have long stopped being your aid and now are actually you, because you and the slides are no longer different. Now, back to your question. If you present and somebody asks a question that is outside the slide, what should you do? Well, you answer the question. You don't need to have slides before you can answer questions. You can just reach into your level, into your brain, and answer the question for the individual. Now, if the question is out of scope, you don't have to answer, right? You can say, that is a very interesting question. Unfortunately, it's out of scope for this presentation, but I'm happy to engage you. My email is here, and you can contact me afterwards. If you can answer the question and it is in scope, but you don't have time, you can say, well, that is a very interesting question, and unfortunately, we're out of time, but we can catch up offline and I'll answer the question. If you don't know, just say, that is a very great question. Unfortunately, I don't have the answers now. I don't want to misinterpret or mislead you. So how about do research? And if you give me your email, I will contact you. Please don't be afraid to say you don't know. Like there's no shame in not knowing something. There is a shame in just pretending you know something and giving wrong information.
And then giving the wrong information.
So if you don't know, just say I don't know. But I can guarantee you that I'm going to know it in the next 24 hours. And I'm going to reach out to you with an answer. So that's how you answer it. It's professional that way, instead of you trying to just come up with stories that make no sense.
All right. Thank you very much. That very much would do for me.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Prof, good evening again.
Yes.
Yeah, Prof, I was looking at the evaluation question, and when I got to the Lacquer scale, I stand to be corrected. I was told that when you are setting up Lacquer scale questions, some has to be in the negative way and others have to be positive ways. Looking at what I'm seeing here, they are all positive. So I want to see whether.
So first of all, we need to really get away from the idea that I was told this way, or someone told me in this way, right? You have to realize research is contextual, that there's no rule. So I think one of the biggest problems we have sometimes is like, we're sticklers for rules that make no sense, number one, and we don't even know how the rules came to be, So the issue is simple. Create questions that make sense for your particular study, right? So as opposed to just replicating things that you have inherited from who you don't even know from, right? Research is all about context. So just create questions.
Yes, ma.
Philip Adewuyi.
Everybody, she.
Mr. Philip Adewuyi, can you kindly mute yourself, please?
Okay, I've muted him.
Okay. Sorry, I've completely lost my train of thought, but I guess that answers that question. Next person, please. And if I didn't answer your question, just please remind me again. I can't remember what it was.
Suleiman Esther. Can I ask your question?
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yes.
We hardly can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Thank you very much for the class. It has been so helpful. So I have 2 questions. So the first one will be going on the QR code. I mix the parts where you were inputting it, and I want to ask about the importance of putting a QR code in a poster. So the second question we'll be talking about, like, what will be our fate after April 2025? Is it that we will no longer be able to access the Chisquares platform, or what happened after April 2025? Thank you.
You're so dramatic in your question. What's going to be our fate? That is so funny. Well, after April 2025, sorry, I didn't mean to laugh at you. Your questioning style was very funny. You'd have to, you'll be restored or defaulted to the free plan. Free plan allows you to do certain things, but of course there are limits. Why are there limits? Well, because creating software or maintaining software is just exorbitantly expensive. Like, you will not believe it. There's no way it's going to be sustainable if it's not profitable, right? So there's somebody, the only thing that is free is the love of Christ. So whoever you worship, right? Even that one is not free because you have to serve them. Sorry, that's a very cheesy joke. But anyway, you're the free plan, and you can upgrade to a paid plan. Now, we're very interested in issues of equity. And so for perpetuity, we're having 50% discount for people in Hinari A and B countries. So your country likely falls into, if you're from Nigeria, definitely falls into that category. So that means that you're going to have 50% off. If your institution has covered for it, then you don't have to worry about that. So that's what's going to be your fate after that period. to your first question about QR codes. Well, the QR code was simply a response to somebody's question. The question in principle was, somebody is here looking at my poster and they want a copy of a poster. How do I give it to them? Well, you can share with them electronically. They can just scan the QR code and the poster will pop up. They can download the poster on their device without you having to print 1,000 copies of a poster and share with them. So that was a process we were going through to say, well, obviously the poster has to be saved in the cloud somewhere. And then once it's in the cloud, like on Dropbox or wherever it is, or your Google Drive or wherever, you just create a QR code of the location of that link so that they can just scan it. That's the process we're going through.
Thank you, Prof.
You're welcome.
Ngozi, your hand is up again. You want to ask?
Yeah. Prof, thank you. I'm back again. Sorry. You mentioned that the best place or the best software to create a poster is in Excel. I don't know how we can do that in Excel, because from what you did, I don't think you did it using Excel platform. I think what you use is PowerPoint. So I don't know how you...
Okay, maybe sorry, I meant PowerPoint, obviously. I meant PowerPoint, so you can use this in PowerPoint. But one of the features we're working on in creating in Chisquares is PowerPoint, creation of slides or PowerPoint or posters in literally seconds. So you don't have to go through all this process of like, oh, I have to align, and all of that will be done automated. So, and that's our mantra really at Chisquares. Like, we look at the whole workflow and like, what are just some things that are just unnecessarily complicated that a human being should really there's no value added to it by you doing it yourself. So the things that are intellectual, that a human needs to put intellectual input, sure, let's leave that for humans. But if it's just a task that is just purely mechanical without any value added, surely we should definitely automate that. So that's one of the things we're just going to automate completely out of existence. But yeah, back to the manual process. I meant PowerPoint, not Excel. I always mix those two terms, by the way. So
okay, better. Okay, it's not as I want to get to. Okay, it's not Excel you meant, it's PowerPoint.
I meant PowerPoint, yes, that's correct.
Okay, because I had Excel. It's okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, for Miracle.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Prof, I've been trying to get myself familiar with the Chi-Square platform, so I've been using a lot of the feature, mostly the proposal generator. But being that I'm in arts and humanities, that's kind of social science. So most of the prompts that I put in, or most of the things that I wanted to generate, the references, they're usually towards the medical, whatever, PubMed or something, even though that the reference is quite correct, they're verifiable, but they don't correspond with the information they were attached to. So I don't know whether Chisquares has maybe you guys have a plan to expand the maybe database to include maybe database that's wide open to social science or humanities. Thank you, Prof.
Yes, so that's something that's has actually been fixed. But remember that this is a beta product. The only reason why we released the beta product is because I personally am not a fan of tada, where we just build something in stealth mode and just release it. It's always a good idea to get feedback and users play with it and say, oh, we don't like this feature, or we like that feature. That's the whole reason behind a beta mode. So it does not mean it's complete. It doesn't mean that it's in the final stage. It just means that it's out there for you to play with it and see whether you have feedback. So, all the feedbacks you've been given, a good number of them are things that were already fixed, and some of them that were not already on the drawing board, we've added them. So once we release once we remove the beta mode, all those problems will disappear. All right, next question.
I think that's all. There's no any hand.
Okay.
And there's no question in the chat.
All right.
So thanks everyone for attending today's session.
And
This is
can you share the link for those who may not have it? I'm not sure whether everybody has access to the if you haven't shared that already, can you please share with folks?
okay. I have. Let me reshare.
Okay. Okay, for Miracle, you have your hand up. Is that an old hand? Okay, I'll assume it is that. All right, thanks everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Prof. So we are not seeing you again in class.
No, we're going to have classes. We just haven't decided on the classes we're going to have that we're going to announce. So again, if you're not following us on LinkedIn, please, you should try and do so.
I've been following you, yeah.
Okay, so that when we announce those things, you'll be first to know.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And please, okay. Sorry?
Okay, go ahead, Prof. Go ahead.
Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. You wanted to ask something?
No, I wanted to say I've shared the link.
Okay,
for those that don't have access to the platform, they can follow the link to get access, and then our social media links too.
Okay, super. All right, thanks everyone. Have a great weekend.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.